Okay, so we continue looking at the different settings we can use to show these values as. So going and looking at the field settings here, we currently have it setting as a percentage difference from. You can also show an actual rand difference. So if I choose difference from, and I still leave it as years and compare to the previous years, you can see the brackets indicate negative. So it shows that in 2020, the sales went down by 33,080 rand. So you can see this from 725 to 692 was a difference of 33,080, and then it went up from 2020 to 2021. It went up by 198,100. So you can actually see a rand increase or a rand decrease compared to the previous year by using that setting. What's often very helpful as well is to rank the different items. So let's say we wanted to rank which was the category that brought the most sales, then the second most sales, and so forth for each of the years. The way we could do that is going into the field settings again. The option that we would choose under the show values as is the ranking, right? So we want to rank from largest to smallest, and the base field needs to be the product category because that's what we're ranking by. So we go and we find the product category field over here, and we're saying we rank it from largest to smallest, and we say okay, and immediately you can actually see that for example, baking was the 13th largest in terms of sales in this particular year of 2019, and that's how it changed by year. So you can actually see, for example, vegetables was the product category that brought in the most sales in 2019, and we can actually see that like this is number one ranked, and you can see that this 1624 is the highest year of all the amounts, and then the second highest would have been fruits coming in at 1430. So basically this gives you a ranking by showing you from 1 to however many there are, which one is the largest, second largest, and so forth. And of course you could have also done the reverse ranking if you ever wanted to, going from the smallest up to the largest. Also, if I wanted to do a sort, I could go to the data column, and let's say in 2021 I wanted to sort from the smallest to the largest. So you can actually, well, the other way, from the largest to the smallest, and you can see here that the personal care was the category that brought in the most sales. And we can actually see it over here. The personal care, this 2 million over here in 2021 was the highest of all of these in 2021, followed by fruits was number 2. And if we look at the rand values over here, you'll see that the amount of 1998 is the second highest in terms of all the values here. So that's a way in which you can actually do a sort as well to list, which then sorts all of these categories based on whichever column you want to sort on. Okay, so going back into the field settings, the other option one could look at that we haven't yet covered is the running totals. Now, running totals are usually quite useful when you're looking in financial terms at year-to-date numbers. So let's say you got January, February, March, and you've listed each month's numbers separately, and then you want to work out a year-to-date or sort of a year-to-date total for each month. You would use a running total. Let's just demonstrate it using these year numbers. You wouldn't typically use this a type of data of adding up multiple years usually in practice, but just to illustrate. So let's say we said running total in, and we wanted to look at the running total in the years, right? And if I say okay, what it basically does is so it's actually, let's just sort this into the same sort as we've got it here. So I'm just going to sort it alphabetically. Okay, so you can see 725, right? Now this 1417 is the sum of these two numbers. It basically gives you a running total. You can see 1417 at the bottom, 1417, the sum of these two, and then the third running total adds all of them up. So as it adds on, it adds all three up, and then you can see that's 2307, 720 at the bottom, and that's what you got there. So basically the running total starts off with the initial base is exactly the same. Then when you get to 2020, the 2020 column here would add up both the 2019 and the 2020 column, and then the 2021 column basically adds whatever's in this column here with the 2021 numbers. So effectively that becomes adding all three of these across. So hope that actually makes sense. Typically you would use this when you want to calculate year-to-date figures in financial reports. Let's actually add in an additional data underneath the product categories, right? So what we'll do is underneath the product category, we'll add in the actual product names, right? So we've got, so if I expand, for example, that you can actually see all of the products. I'm just going to do it on both of them, on both of these pivot tables, because the one on the left will remain with the values. Right. So what we're going to do over here, right, is let's actually go ahead and select the sum of sale amount again here, go into the value field settings, and let's say we want to show these values as a percentage of the parent row total, right? So as a percentage of the parent row total, we say OK. And what immediately happens is it'll actually calculate the percentages now as part of the overall year. So you can see that the 2019 each year adds up to 100%. But now you can actually see not only does baking itself make up 4.36% of the total, but baking powder, right, of that percentage, of the 4.36 percentage, that makes up 12.13. So for example, if I highlight all of those add up to 100%. So you can see that baking powder makes up, or say butter makes up 14.87% of the baking total, not of the overall total, but of the baking total. Similarly, eggs makes up that percentage. So it's actually working out these percentage as part of what is that percentage there. And similarly, it would be doing it for each of these. So for example, if we were looking at the beverages and we wanted to see which one of these makes up the biggest proportion, just by running our eye down, we can see 27% is the biggest number. So water makes up the biggest proportion of the beverages sales within 2019. Obviously, when we come to a year, let's say into the 2021 year, you can see it's actually different in that the highest is going to soda, for example. So this basically just makes all of these things at the secondary level, the products actually equal to 100% of that total of the row. Now, if we didn't want it to be a percentage of the total just of the row, like these are adding up to 100%, but if we wanted each of these to be a percentage of the overall sales for the year of the final grand total, then what we would do is we would go back into the field settings. Instead of choosing it as a percentage of the parent row total, what we would do is choose it as a percentage of the overall column total. And if I click on OK, you can see that this says that baking powder as a product made 0.53% of the overall of the total sales of 2019, so less than 1%. You would typically expect that because there's so many different products and most of them would make up a small percentage. Now in this case, when I add up all of these four, they'll add up to the 4.36%, as you can see there. So it basically will add up to this amount. Whereas before, when we added them up, they were basically adding up to 100% because it was showing what contribution they were making to the baking category. But right now, this is showing what percentage they're contributing to the overall sales for the year.